You
And,
should.
yeah, that thing that she
Yes.
Teachers Off-Duty podcast.
I won't tell you what it is now that you're there looking, but this
Oh,
is
right. The first 3 lines. I don't need to leave your cheesy brown hash bone casserole at home. Reach home from school.
it's us, which reminded me a couple of things that I'd love to talk about. But this is season
Yeah.
7, episode 40, number 305 of the Decoded podcast. One of our listeners, Rochelle, sent Chris and I a message.
Colleagues, our connectors, one of our people.
One of the decoded.
What do you want to call her?
I don't know. I'm thinking now. She is a human, so I'm going to just refer a human that follows the podcast.
How about just friends? One of our friends.
Yeah, because I did work with her. She's not alien to me.
I haven't met yet, but I think this. I mean, I'll lead you into this. But officially, we've connected on Facebook, and the next level, Rochelle has started this sort of like the beginnings of the meme relationship.
Oh,
because of the share of this little comedy thing that Rochelle shared to you and I on Facebook. So,
well, and I'm happy to say that it's about potlucks, and you and I both have opinions. I think yours might be stronger than mine.
I believe so.
I believe so. But since that episode of the podcast, when I watched that video, and I've watched other things online or on television, I still watch television, about buffets, I just shake my head like I don't really have an interest anymore. And that's saying a lot.
I want to check.
Rochelle's here. GM Rochelle.
I want to check, and I wish I can't tell. Let's see if I can see a post date on this on this thing. I can't. It's too complex. But I'm gonna say, I wish you could do that on the metadata right away. Like, and I've never really thought this was important until right now. But on the when you get something like a meme, maybe it's up in the top details, more actions. No, it doesn't. An easy way to find out the post date of a piece of content. Now, post date, I know, is not the same as production date. Heck, I remember that all the time from back in the day, doing Chasing Squirrels. My production date would often be several days, sometimes even a week prior to the actual post update. And I mean, I just kind of had to roll that way. I want to touch base back on that. Remind me about post date, whatever. But anyways, I want to say, I think we were there first. I think if we go back,
I see what you're
saying. Easily like back to whatever episode 100, maybe even earliest episode 65. We were talking about the cookie. I think what got us there was the cookie exchange, and talking about people that just, they don't take it seriously. They bring crap, or they think like that's the kind of cookie that other people want to eat. And I think that got us talking about potlucks as well, and the ridiculousness of someone just leaving their crock pot, slightly warm in the back seat of their car, and bringing it in to heat it up just in time delivery. The Swedish meatballs they're already gurgly in the bucket. They're going to be terrible in your stomach. So yeah, them talking about, I love this thing that Rochelle shared about the sus potluck food. The one thing that my takeaway from it though is that there is this funny thing. I'm no longer in this space. I don't exist. The thing I'm about to describe, I'm no longer in this space. But there is something very what's the word? Like, it brings me joy to also hear within that piece that there's a certain optimism and hope that maybe this time it won't give you the shits, right? That was kind of, because I do think like people still operate that way. Maybe this time it'll be okay. The other times were terrible. Yes, they were terrible. Period 4, I was like, Colin, somebody come and, kind of sub in for me. I got to hit the toilet. I'm no longer in that space. I just don't believe anymore. I won't. I'm the guy there eating my sandwich or waiting for the fresh pizza to arrive.
Mm,
So I will say one thing to this. I didn't share this with you, but back in the day, I think I told you there were two different groups that would bring Kentucky Fried Chicken and another group that would bring pizza. And you
mhm.
never really knew. The thing about that was that it was never there right in the beginning. They always wanted to kind of like roll in with it and have like, oh, hey, you brought the pizza. Like it sort of was like building fanfare.
Mhm.
There were a couple years there when they weren't here, and this was just early when everyone was carrying tech into the schools, where I would text one of them and say, "Hey, yo, are you bringing chicken again this year?" And boom, within 1 minute, I would have an ETA because they would be like, "Yup, we're just pulling up in the driveway now." So I would watch for the door, and as they're coming in the staff room, I'd just be standing up. So I would meet them at the table. I'd be the first one there to get either the chicken or the pizza. So using tech to leverage the likelihood of me getting a fresh leg, a crispy leg. It's not the old sweaty kind of like crust is softened on it, or a nice corner piece of pizza or edge piece, appropriate piece. Yeah, I did that just to optimize my participation. Um, and I wanted to say something about post date and production date. Oh, I was going to say, so in the on ramp, just talking about all the things that have happened inside our lives. If we take decoded as kind of like the candy coated shell, um, and it was remarkable that back in the day, just my comment saying like sometimes it'd be 1-2 weeks going from production on a podcast to actually post date. Like it would just depend on my life. Sometimes I couldn't get it posted up. And I know from the other side, the interviewee, so the person that was a part of the conversation, because I've been that person too, where I've been on other people's podcasts, like every day I'm like, oh, when's it going to drop? When's it going to drop? When's it going to drop? And I get it. I'm not a professional podcaster, so I don't have the funds to just sit here and push out an episode. Um, so that wait time was excruciating. Bringing it back to what we do here, apart from me forgetting to bump out last week's episode, and I'll do that today because I got the graphic done and then I just never said it out. It's available right away, hot off the griddle. You want to sit here and listen? Good morning to whoever's here. I think who'd you say Rochelle's here? Here.
Rochelle's here, yes.
Good morning again, Rochelle. Yeah, so just hot off the griddle, hot off the
So this isn't the road that I thought we were gonna take this morning, but
griddle.
which is weird to say because how would I ever know what it is
Mm,
you'd like to talk about?
mm,
But I like this because there's a couple of things I'd like to touch upon. I don't know if it was right. I don't know if this happened to me after our discussion about potlucks and the dark side of potlucks, but I too, not tech wizard like you, but I too, um, I'm a scoper. I'm hungry, so I want to eat, and I've brought something to the potluck. So that's my ticket in. And then what I have done, I don't know when I started this, so I can't say it was because of that episode that I changed my worldview on potlucks. Um, but what I do is I'm the first one at the potluck when the doors open. So what's what does this look like in a school? There are people who are organizing, so people will bring the like. Okay, let's go back. Let's anchor this. Let's talk about the school that Rochelle and I worked at, that she still works at. If we were having a breakfast potluck, there was a Christmas breakfast that the men would cook. So I was in complete control of the eggs and the bacon I was going to eat. So I was okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Because I was in charge. I was in charge of one of those things. And because of that, I knew that I was going to get certain items and I was going to eat at the end. So after I cooked the meal with the other gentleman, um, I was going to eat. So I made sure that I cooked my own eggs, which is friggin' like that's like if people are looking at me and they're grossed out by me cooking, sorry, but I knew I was gonna win that day. And I tell you, I make every attempt to ensure that like my hands were clean, and like I was very anal about my preparation because I'm like, I don't want somebody else to not eat because I'm cooking and there's something about the way I'm doing this that's causing them concern. That's not
Mhm.
cool. So if we anchor it to that breakfast, I was in some control. Now let's take away the control and let's just look at like a PD day lunch. So everybody's bringing in, this is the danger. This is the danger zone because everybody's, well, it's always a danger zone, but everybody's bringing food in the morning, but we're not eating it until noon. So
Mhm.
if you've screwed the pooch at home with how you've done everything at home, then it doesn't matter how many hours pass at school. You're still gonna it's still not gonna sit well. And then even if you've done your homework at home and you get to school and you put whatever's supposed to be refrigerated in the fridge and stuff. For me, I would always scope out and eyeball the options. And if I
Mhm.
was starving, it was like, what's the best option? Where's the biggest bang for my buck where I think I'm not going to get sick? Or what is, because very rarely did I see people do the fresh food like it was rare for someone to order a pizza. So 3 large pizzas arrive right when we're starting to potluck. Because if that happened, I would have gone right to the pizza. Because I like to be first at those things, like you were kind of talking about. I like to be first so that when the food opens up, I know where to go.
Mhm.
Then there's always the person who'll step out at lunch, drive to the grocery store, and then come right back with a fruit tray. So I'm like, I'm good because that thing's sealed. I'm I'm taking a risk. I'm believing that the store did all the right things in preparing it and keeping it cold. And then this person literally bought it and drove for 10 minutes. So I'm like, guess I'm eating fruit. So there's there's layers. I don't know when the OCD started, but after you and I talked, I see it very differently now. Um, but
It's
I wanted to
it's
anchor it.
fun to talk about. It's
It is
fun to
fun.
talk. I think it's our Seinfeld moment, and we've had a few of these moments where an idea gets us and we just can't let it go. And I think at this point, I think we're still pulling the layers off it. I think the layers are still coming off it. I think it goes to show, like, uh, it's one of the ideas, one of the sort of discussions that has popped out of our podcast that I truly wish we had, 100K followers. It's one of those few moments where I think having 100K followers, educators talking about their experiences at potlucks would be a whole season of hilarity. It really would. Like just people talking about their strategies, their preferences, their wants, putting their orders in ahead of time, their health concerns, their sort of cultural experiences as well. They're growing, they're learning, they're social, the fun factor, like making friends. Like there's a lot of layers to it. I just tend to always come back to, is this going to give me diarrhea or is this not going to give me diarrhea? No matter how good it tastes on the palate, right?
This is so bad, Rochelle. She just added a layer that's insane,
See, and
especially
like I said, this is where we need the 100K because I would love for this moment right now that I have no clue. This is obviously a connection between you and Rochelle, but I know all of a sudden people are like, oh my God. Like people just go, yes, yes.
so this is what I do. So what Rochelle is saying is a great example of the situation you're put in, right? Okay, we're going to a morning session at this high school.
Mhm.
Everybody in that family school is going to be there, and then we're going to
Yeah.
have a potluck at our site because we're there in the afternoon.
Oh.
So what this is so who thought of this, number one? Somebody on the social committee. So I'm throwing people under the bus here. So who thought of this, number one? Because other schools will do, I made reservations at this restaurant. So right after the morning session at the high school, everybody get in your car, get to that restaurant, we eat, then we go to our school site for the afternoon. There's Everybody does it differently, right? And some people will just do choose your own adventure. We start at 1 o'clock. I'll be there ready to present. Okay. But what Rochelle's referring to, I think, are the people who will be like, oh, I'll just put the frozen meatballs in the crock pot and leave that in the back of my car. They're frozen. They're going to defrost while I'm in the high school at the session. And then, or this is horrible. Some people will bring the food into the high school, probably plug it in the hallway, let it start doing its thing,
Oh my god, I haven't seen that.
and then unplug in car, go to the next site, plug back in,
Oh
and
my
be like, we're good
god.
to go. So though that's what Rochelle's talking about is like a World War danger zone type situation, because people, anything that's supposed to be cold. Now, okay, I'm being a real jerk because there are some people, like I'm sure Rochelle would do this. Some people will think through this and they'll be like, okay, I need a cooler. I need ice in the cooler. Like
Non-negotiables.
they
They're,
will
you
do
know
that.
what? They might be the ones that have, uh, while they're in university, they also worked in hospitality. They got some knowledge.
Or they just don't want people to get sick on their dime and their
Or
time.
they're my kids. They're my children, having learned from dad, like, don't eat that. It's mayonnaise based. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm no chef, but I would say the same to my kids. I'm like, you need to consider what needs to be refrigerated, what needs to be
Mhm,
eaten at
mhm, mhm,
like
mhm.
peak temp, because because I've learned that from you. Because if you talk to my wife, she'll tell you at my mom's house, my wife spots food issues at my mom's house 24/7, which would explain a lot for me growing up and spending time in the bathroom.
Yeah, like, oh, the chocolate is amazing.
And I don't operate like my mom does here.
Mm,
So I don't think my wife has to worry about, like, I learned food preparation and food this and that from my mom. I don't operate. But
you get it.
I get it. So there's the person that will just say, "Oh, the frozen egg rolls, I'll just throw them in the trunk. They're frozen. So by the time we get to the session in the afternoon, I'll just throw them in the oven for 15, and they'll like it's good. It's good." Because they weren't sitting in the car unfrozen the whole time. There's those
Mhm.
people. What I would do in that situation is I would purchase something neutral, like a coffee cake that can sit in the back seat or the trunk, as long as this. Then I think, okay, I might park somewhere where the sun's going to be beaming on it and like burn it to death or whatever. That's what I would do. I would be like, well, if you guys want to be morons and you want to put this together knowing we're not around, I'll bring something neutral. Because you can't say Chidiac made me sick from the coffee cake. Sorry, it's not going to happen. Then there's
Not
people
on my watch.
then there's people that'll have stuff at home. So they will say, I'm they'll say to a colleague, if anybody asks, I'm leaving 10 minutes early from the PD session at the high school. I'm gonna go home. Like they're like the entitled. Like if the boss man says, where's Jimmy? You tell him Jimmy went home. Jimmy left early, yes, but he went home to get the food for the potluck. So Jimmy's is that like that aristocrat, is that how you say it? Who thinks that they
Aristocrat.
aristocrat,
Yeah, yeah.
who thinks that they are above everybody, like the
Oh.
director of everybody. No, we're having a potluck, and I want to make sure nobody dies on my watch. So
Oh,
I'm
geez.
leaving the high school. I'm going to walk out in front of everybody, get in my
Mhm.
car, go home so I can get the food that's might be sitting out, I don't know, or sitting in the fridge and bring it to school and throw it in the oven. There's always somebody who has to get to school early to turn the
Mhm.
oven on and prep the table. So they think I'm loving this. They think they can just leave PD no problem because they have food
Impunity,
at school.
what it is. They're moving with potluck impunity.
So you've lit me up now. I wasn't expecting to talk about potlucks, but
Ding, 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 ding.
here we are. And
Here
then
we
there's
are.
the cookie exchange, because when I watched Rochelle's video, I thought of the cookie exchange right away.
Mm. Mhm.
You know, a part of me, I hope my principal doesn't hear this, but part of the dark side of me wants to try to make a cookie exchange happen at the high school if they don't
Mhm.
already do one,
Mhm.
and just watch it. I want to be Joker in the Batman movie walking away from the hospital as it explodes. So I want to set it all up.
That's dark, but I get it.
I want to
That's
set up the
dark.
cookie exchange, and then I want to film how somebody will bring the smallest circle of dough, and then someone brings the most extravagant, time-consuming cookie, and then watch the doughboy basically be like, here's what I said I was going to bring 8,000 dough balls that took me a minute to make, and I'm going to pick away at every 1 hour prepared cookie on this table, because in a high school it could be wild.
Mm.
I was in the staff room the other day. I texted my wife. I'm like, "Oh my god, the staff room's so big," and she's like, "Get to work, you idiot! What are you doing?" Like, okay, it's supposed to be big. There's a
It
thousand people
is.
there, but it
It
was like
is.
I was. I'm now
I
I'm
love it.
thinking
Get to
the
work, you idiot.
the beauty of what could happen with a cookie exchange in a high school. Anyway, so I wanted to anchor because Rochelle, you're gonna. I don't know if Rochelle can say anything because she still works there, but
Mhm.
for the most part, well, I don't know, Rochelle. If you want to take a risk and you want to tell us and the world and our three other listeners what you thought of the Christmas breakfast with the men cooking, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Was
Oh,
that were you Were you okay with that, or were you like, "Oh no, Roland's cooking this. I'm not eating anything. I'm not going to take
brave
offense."
spaces. Brave
Brave
spaces.
spaces.
Going full Brene
Brene
Brown
Brown
here.
would be proud of
Dropping
us.
the armor, baby. Dropping the armor.
So Rochelle, I'd love to
Vulnerability.
know, because Rochelle, I'm going to tell you, I didn't
He
eat some
is.
of. I'm going to eat some of the other. I did not eat some of the other things that the men cooked
Mhm.
because I was there for prep.
Well, see, and sometimes but see, sometimes I'm also there. I remember, yeah,
Rochelle saves
I think
herself.
Rochelle has mentioned this one before. See, I would say also because I also notice sometimes guys bathroom hygiene. So my not eating your food might have started a year and a half ago when I saw you didn't wash your hands after you're at the urinal. So I'm just like, yeah, yeah,
Don't
um,
forget, Rochelle, you're also vegan.
yeah.
How could
So
you forget?
I go there. I'm like, yeah, I'm not eating it because you don't wash your hands in the bathroom.
I guess we're
And
shifting.
when I see that, I say to myself, that ain't a school thing. That's a life thing. Like you do that all the time. You do it all the time. I I I I I paint their life with those because I think that's your system. Like if you, it's like I still tell a story. I still one of the most unnerving story. I'll tell it. There's absolutely no reason for me to tell this other than I'm still bothered by it. You know, being in a shopping center when I still work there selling shoes and hearing someone having a lot of trouble in one of the stalls. And then I'm at the sink washing my hands, getting back because I have to get back for my shift. And the dude comes out of the bathroom eating a sandwich, and
Oof.
I'm like, that's that's a system issue. That's no longer a right now issue. That's a system issue. If you think like eating a sandwich in the toilet is a eating a sandwich in the toilet, eating a sandwich in the bathroom. Oh yeah, buddy. You'll also start to see this in high school. By the way, when you're on hall duty, and I don't know if you're a knock knock knock. Teachers coming in, get out of the bathroom. Like I don't know what you because I'm sure your high school will have hall duty. I am that guy. Bang, bang, bang. Get out. Get back to class. And you sort of open the bathroom door, as I do. Get back to class. Sometimes you catch people's vaping. There's a lot of, besides the cringe, a lot of things. Besides the cringe factor, there's a lot of benefits to just like get the hell out of the bathroom. But I have seen people in there sitting on the floor eating soup. Like they're gonna grow up to be someone that brings these things to a potluck and doesn't think twice about like washing their hands, the danger zone, proper cooking temperatures, right? Like my hope is that they grow up to be people that bring pizza and Popeye's chicken to potlucks, so I can text them and say, "Yo, when are you gonna be here?"
Okay, so two things. One of my favorite things now is when I use a public bathroom. There's other gentlemen in the bathroom. No, I'm not. I'm not just standing there watching. I use the facilities and then I wash my hands and leave.
That's a
And
meme. Like time check that at
that's
24:15. Roland saying, "I'm just in the bathrooms, enjoying being in public bathrooms."
so I'm in the bath.
Rochelle is our new media. media maven. So the individual that's going to be representing the memes and the sort of like the comedy
Oh,
that does happen on here. We are now officially, you've passed the audition, the application process. We will expect you to start sharing out small clippets of ridiculousness from the Decoded podcast.
I
Feel
like
free
that.
to yeah, hey, we don't have an individual that's going to sort of market this podcast. And it's not, I mean, again, we're trying to, here's the intent. We're trying to get to 100K just so we can talk more about potlucks at teacher meetings. Like that's it. That's it. Just to have a little bit more fun, people to get their words out. Here we go. Back to you, Chid. Sorry.
No, no problem. Go into the bathroom, use the facilities, and then watch other people come in, use the facilities, then turn around, and just walk out. No hand washing. You're right. That's a life thing. And I just shake my head and say damn underneath, under breath, because I'm like, oh, damn. Okay. Um, oh, and then the bathroom at the school. When I was in elementary and there was a situation, this happened at least twice a year, every year of my career. Um, I'll be in my classroom teaching or doing whatever, and then a female will come to the door and say, "Can you come here for a second?" "Yeah, sure. What's up?" "Can you go into the boys' bathroom? So and so in there's never come out. Can you please see if whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." "You're gonna watch my class?" "Yeah, I'm gonna watch your class." "Okay." Go to the bathroom. Same thing. Uh, we didn't have doors because of the way that like you enter in. You can't see anything anyway. So I just yell in, "Yo, who's in here?"
They
And
have
then,
switchback walls. That's what I call them. It's like you
oh, is that what they're called?
straight. That's what I call them because
Oh,
it's like a hairpin, right? You walk in
yes.
the hall, and then you have to come back, and so there's extra wall there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like those. I actually do like those.
I like them too. Um, so anyway, I'm like, "Yo, who's in here?" And then somebody will say, "I'm in here." "Well, okay, anybody else with you?" "Yeah, somebody's in the stall." And it's like, "Okay, well, Mr. C's coming in. Is it safe for me to come in?" "Yes, it's safe." And then you walk in, you're like, "Whoa, who's in the stall?" And then you go through the motions, right? So in high school, that happens too. Like you'll nail on the door or tell somebody go in there and say a teacher's coming in or what?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, I will say,
It's not like you're
compared
doing this 24/7. I'm just saying if you need to get in there, this is your process.
yeah, I kind of it's I will run that. I'm I guess part of a cohort of teachers that looks at our capacity to support school safety
Uh-huh.
sometimes is hampered by um cringe and really boosted by common sense. So and let me just I'll shape that a little bit. So if I'm walking past a bathroom, even if I'm hustling on my way to class, that moment is and I hear ridiculousness, and it's not hard to hear ridiculousness when you walk past a bathroom, any room, right?
Yeah.
I believe it's my duty to poke my head in, to do something to interrupt that moment, to remind who's ever in that bathroom that it's not a playground, that it's not a smoking section, that it's not a place, it's not a Kijiji Amazon place to sell things back and forth. It is a bathroom. You go in to do your business, you wash your hands, you get out. You treat it with respect, and you treat any individual going in there with respect. I think as far as duties go in the school, I take that to the nth degree. Now, I have been fortunate in because there's a lot of X factors in this. I've been fortunate that I've never had anyone build case against me for interrupting something or seeing something or being told something. My union doesn't clearly support this idea of teachers going into the bathroom in this way. They will start from the point of view as it's not safe because you're no longer on camera, you're no longer seen. So as a workplace, like their ethic, they won't argue the ethical side of it. They'll argue the safety side of it, so that you being in the bathroom and off camera and one person in there could be multiple individuals in there, multiple stories, their word against yours sort of thing. But I have interrupted so many instances that could have escalated to something really bad because it was already moving in that direction. Individuals that were making the space unsafe for other people, So it wasn't, the individuals doing the things, it was people that would have encountered those things. So I would say singularly, my focus, I would say singularly, my focus while I'm on hall duty is like militaristic. It really is. It's militaristic. Um, I would say the first time I ever popped my head out of this mindset was a couple years back, when I was mentoring a new teacher. And I was podcasting with them at the time, putting up Corey Gordon, and still remember, a good dude. And I had hall duty for one of the weeks that he was with me. And while we were walking, I said to him, "How do you what like how can you make the most of hall duty?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, what is hall duty?" And it was interesting to his response. He's like, it was like his was sort of low level, entry level, basic understanding, shooing people out of the halls. I'm like, "Yep. What else could it be though?" So I think that was the one of the first times me posing that question, just because I posed a lot of questions to him, that I started to also think about Call of Duty as a generative, restorative task as well. Who can I visit? Who can I help? How can I get a little bit of my work done in here? What can I notice about the school? How can I maintain safety? How can I get some exercise? How can I improve my own wellness? How can I sort of do some list stuff in my head? How can I meditate? So I started to kind of build out this opportunity for growth, and I love it. I love hall duty. I love it. Um, and I will be the one that is like, I'm usually like bang, bang, bang. All I say, bang, 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 teacher coming in. That's it. I got my hand on my walkie, bang, 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 teacher coming in.
Awesome. I will make sure if I have that type of duty, I'm gonna start asking questions because I want to know
Hmm.
what is the feel for the culture at this school with that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I know. I think I told you this. I told my wife as I was reading something. I got a ton of stuff to read about my new school.
Did you get
About
your handbook yet? Your staff handbook? Okay, another story.
I click on that link and it doesn't work.
Oh,
So
see, there's a place that time forgot. That's too bad. Sorry.
So I'll get there. I
Yeah,
did read the student handbook, which was fun because I kind of want to know what the perspective is from the students. Like,
yeah, yeah.
what are we telling them we expect, right? I need to know that.
Exactly.
So I read that. That was good. But then this other stuff that I read, it was like it was phrased like make sure da 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 when it comes to the bathrooms to reduce vandalism and I don't know, like vandalism and destruction of property. And I was like, I just paused. I was like, vandalism and destruction of property, like because I'm used to grade threes in the bathroom. Like they're not bringing spray paint. They're not, you know, their vandalism probably is a lot different than what it's going to look like in high school. But I, it was just weird the way it struck me as I was. It just struck me different, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's right." And then I was talking to a friend of mine who knows somebody that knows kids that go to the high school I'm at, and he was talking about a particular bathroom in the building where kids purposely go to vape.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Tell me more." And he's like, "Well, the vibe I'm getting is that if kids need to actually use a bathroom, they're not going there. And if their classes are in that section of the school, then these kids are screwed because they won't use the bathroom."
It's
And
true.
at that moment, I was like, "I don't like that. I don't like that. That's not cool." And I'm sure all the teachers at this school aren't like I'm sure everybody is disturbed by the fact that kids can't use a bathroom because of what happens in there. It bothers me though, because I have two kids in high school and I know one of them's told me, there have been times where he's avoided using the bathroom. I'm like, what is this? Like Lebanon fucking 1978 with Civil War?
Can
Like
I? This was a major challenge of practice last year at our school. I will tell you, it was brought to school council. One of the school council parents had said that their child and their friends will not use the bathrooms at school. They will hold it no matter what. They said they have come home like sore stomachs because they've held it all day. So after that meeting, I brought to Eric, our principal, I'm like, look, back at my previous high school, this was a conversation 2 years ago. And we got buy-in. There was a lot of discussion that had to happen, but we got buy-in from the staff to start uh, directly. What they decided to do was they decided to start tracking the individuals that are constantly out of the bathroom. So they looked at it from a safety perspective. They had one-to-one discussions with the individuals as to why you were leaving class. They managed to get to the challenging conversations with teachers, as in what's your in-classroom practice of allowing students out of the class. So they had a multi-pronged kind of approach to reducing traffic in the halls and people hanging out in the bathroom in order to improve safety in the school. So they put in sign out books in the classroom, a limit of one person out at a time. Nobody is allowed to go to the bathroom within 15 minutes of the beginning of class and 15 minutes of the end of class. They then also asked for this is the new form that we did at my current high school. They then asked for volunteers as to who would give up part of their prep, and the union didn't stand in the way of this, who would give up part of their prep in order to sit outside of the bathrooms and limit the flow of kids going in and out of the bathrooms. And you would sit there and you just kind of do your prep. There'd be two people sitting there. They had a schedule that they put out in a Google Doc. Sign up for where you can. Admin was participating, and we did that for a month as a blitz, where we were sitting outside and then people coming up. Nope, you can't go in. Nope, you can't go in. Yes, you can go in. Go ahead. And we were controlling the flow. And then we brought it back. And because this was like in May, I think we did this in May. As we got into June, fewer and fewer people were signing up, and they said, okay, that's it. Like we don't have any more APAs, so we can't assign people to do this exact job. And we're not getting enough volunteers to keep it cohesive. They also closed some of the bathrooms. They reduced access to bathrooms. Now, there were a lot of really great conversations that came out of this. Discussions around how school design doesn't take into account equity as far as the needs of some individuals and their need to be in the bathroom depending on their biological needs in general. Single-use bathrooms were not really addressed in a great way. So it was by design, it's a really complex issue. Which is why when Lecce, the former education minister, sort of announced that they're going to start putting in vape sensors in the bathroom, I'm like, yeah, it really is not what's going on here. The punishing, you know what I mean? It doesn't help us. We're not going to be able to punish the behavior out of the kids. Like it's not that it won't work. It just won't work. So that was a long blah blah blah. But I've gone through what I love about this is I've gone through the process of trying to figure out better ways. I love that I've been part of the challenge of practice in this because I feel like I have an approach that if we could maintain it, it would be great. So we know what to fight for. We need to be able to have more staff that can be assigned APAs in order to sort of do this job. And we would probably need to do it probably for a 4-year stint before we back off so that every single student is inculcated in this mindset, right? So you're catching every layer to all the way through someone from grade 9 to grade 12. And then,
Cool, man. Well,
looking forward to how it looks this year. We'll see.
and I'll definitely let you know what I see on my end.
All the duties are different, bro. You're never gonna have to do bus duty again.
Well, maybe I will. We have buses at my school. I don't know.
It's usually the first to go in the duty roster,
Oh,
unless you're supporting a community class.
okay.
But that one in our board, teachers being out there for bus duty, I haven't had that. I haven't done that duty in 15 years, maybe even longer than that. It was there when I started. Though. Bus duty was the thing. You had to be there early in the morning, and then you also had it after school.
Bro, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm looking forward to just finding out when my duties are, what they are,
Get that candy.
what the expectations are. The other day when I was floating around in the school and there was a program running, there were some students in the hallway, I guess kind of waiting to get back into the classroom where they were with their teacher. And it was cool. I'm walking up the hallway, just kind of looking around like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, awesome. How are you doing? And it was just neat to get a little bit of a flavor for what it's going to look like. It's going to be insane when the building's like at full capacity and people are moving from class to class. And I'm really looking forward to that insanity. at this moment, I'm just so happy I'm not going back to an elementary school. Um,
Hmm.
I feel a relief in a weird kind of way.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's weird. When I was at the high school the other day, a couple of the new people like me who were hired came from elementary. So this one teacher walked in that I know of, and she walked in and she had bags and bags of stuff. And I'm like, what are you setting up a classroom? And we laughed because that's not how it works in high school anymore. But she's like, well, I want to make sure my space, her little cubby office space, um, I do want to set that up. I want to make that homey. I'm like, but you brought like a million bags of stuff. And she's like, I know. It's probably going to take years for me to break out of this mentality of what elementary teachers stereotypically do the minute we can get into our rooms. Um,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think I told you my wife called me and said, "Can you come with one of the boys? The desks are piled in a way that I really shouldn't be moving them." I was
Mm.
in there like white on rice because it's a novelty to me now. I'm like, "You need me to move desks and set stuff up and go on the ladder?" And she's like, "You want to do all this stuff? Like, you don't want to be at home just chilling?" I'm like, "No," because I know I'm never gonna. I'm theoretically never gonna be doing this kind of thing again.
Right.
So if you need me to move desks and let me flex some of my elementary teacher thinking for startup, I'm happy to do so because it's like I feel like I'm retired from it now. So I can sit in a chair and be like, I remember when, um, who knows? Maybe next year I'll have a portable and I'll be in there first semester for the 3 periods that I teach. I might, I might do something to it. To the elementary teacher in me might that mode might kick in and be like, okay, well, if I'm in here every day, all day for 5 months, I'll put some stuff on the wall and I'll figure out, okay, where do I want to put student work and just that stuff. All the stuff that I used to complain about, I'm now like, holy cow, high school
Mm.
teachers generally don't do that.
Mhm.
Um, I want to give you an example of a situation when we we worked with a guy who was in the high school mindset in the elementary school, and it caused a lot of difficulty. Before I go there, though, we're going to backtrack to the bathrooms a little bit. Rochelle made a comment earlier that she was at McDonald's this week and saw a guy take an entire bag of takeout into the washroom. So, on initial reading, I think that that's disgusting. But if that guy had to go, like some people, if they're using a McDonald's bathroom, they're desperate. Like something's happening that they're like, I don't care where I am or what I have in my hands.
Yeah.
If I don't go in there, we're gonna have a problem in the lobby of the store, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know, Rochelle. Frame that out. Did the guy look like he was in distress, or did you just see him pick up his food, and turn around, just head into the bathroom with his takeout? I don't know. It is not ideal, I would say, for me.
See,
If
I'm sticking around to watch to see if he comes out with the bag. Like, if the bag's
oh,
gone, you're like, "Oh, man."
that would be something, eh? Go in there and just
I'm like, you couldn't just use your mobile phone? You had to sit and have a meal? Like like, that's the story I'm sticking around for, like, watching to see what comes out with him, you know? He's just crumpling up the bag when he comes out.
oh man, that's
Um,
horrible. Okay.
it's
And
a
then
thing.
it's a thing. Rochelle says that at their school they're changing which divisions use each washroom. So the office has more knowledge of washroom use.
Mhm.
Yeah. I get that. Even in things I was reading, it was talking about signing in, signing out. So I've been I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when I'll read everything that I'm given and that I have access to. Um, and then it'll be fun to see how people actually practice it. And it will be fun to talk to teachers I know there and say to them, hey, this is what I read. Do you do that? And then hear them say, no, no, that doesn't work here. This is what I do. Or, yes, of course I do that because that's what administration wants. So I'm looking forward to seeing, I'm really just wide open. How does this play out? Because this is what administration is telling us on paper. This is what I'm seeing seeing when I'm in the halls, and then this is what people are telling me. So all that is exciting to me in a way, because I remember when I was in the classroom, teacher would come to me and say, okay, I'm struggling. This is what, like, the paperwork says this. How do you do this? I'm like, okay, well, I've been doing this for years now. So I cut out step 2, 6, and 8 because for me, it's not efficient, time wasters. Nobody looks at them. So I'm not spending my time on those. I spend my time on, 3, 7, 12, because that's what admin really wants to see. And then they look at you funny, like you're not doing it the way it says. I'm like, no, but if you ask my administrators, does Roland do his job? Does Roland, when he hands this in, what do you think? They'll tell you, no, it's A1 every time. So it's like, okay, well, they're not even going through the list to make sure. You got to learn what works, what doesn't work, how it works. Do you understand? You don't just I'm a believer that you don't just pop things out until you understand. Know the process, know the real deal way, and then flex because you know at the end of the day what the outcome's going to be. And you can get there by doing things differently, but not causing a major issue. So I'm looking forward to playing with all that.
Mhm.
I worked at a school. It was a great staff, great school. And one of the teachers went on maternity leave. Grade 8, I think. Grade 8 teacher went on maternity leave. And the administrators hired a gentleman, which was nice because it was rare to have lots of men in elementary. So like, okay, this is awesome. We got a man, and he's a sports guy. So right away, we have another man in the building, which is good, different modeling for the kids, but he's also really into sports, which is good because we're kind of struggling there. So he says he's going to pick that up. Okay. Well, the year starts, and he was in grade 8, I was in grade 2. So the only interaction we had was in the staff room eating lunch. Um, and because he was a guy, we kind of hung out together and talked about the things that guys might talk about stereotypically. It was good. And then one of my friends in intermediate, the one day she comes in and she's just looking at me, looking at him, and she's not impressed. So when there's a moment, I'm like, what's going on? She's like, that guy is not, he's like, he's fun to talk to, you know, but he's running that portable like it's a grade 12 English class.
Mm.
So there are the things that you would expect to see on the walls of an elementary school that are, proven to work to help students learn and navigate learning. None of that was happening. So you had this one grade 8 class that was being treated like a high school class, which, again, if you go with the stereotypes, there's like, oh, you didn't do your homework, that's a 0. Like there's no opportunity to, it was just very anal and very black and white. Like, oh, you're in grade 8, you should know better.
Mhm.
Where are the anchor charts on the wall? What are you talking about? Anchor charts. You know, the administrators took him, I think, to 3 different schools at 3 different times, half a day each, so he could see what a grade 8 classroom looked like in the system, the way that the system wanted them to look. So I don't know if he had time to talk to the teacher and ask about, well, why is this here and why do you do this and that? But it was like the best practices that the board had established, that I would say you walk into any grade 7 or 8 class and some you would see something that would give you an idea that these people were doing things that they were directed to do to improve learning. None of that was happening.
Mm.
And I remember this was an interesting moment for me because I was not attached. So when the grade 8s had Rotary, I wasn't negatively impacted. The other teachers were, and the students were, because the students going into his room were like, oh, geez, we're walking into grade 12 and there's nothing on the walls and blah, blah, blah. And then the kids leaving his room, going to other rooms, were like, thank God we can have like 80 minutes of what elementary grade 8 is supposed to look like before we go back to him, kind of thing. I remember observing this, the stress of the intermediate teachers that had to work with it. I remember, because I knew both the administrators and I could talk to them straight, I remember observing them to see how do they deal with this as formal leaders.
Mhm.
sad to say, even though I love both these guys, they didn't deal with it head on. Um, they just kept trying to get to it sideways. And I remember saying to them, guys, he doesn't get it. And if he does, he doesn't care because you two aren't doing anything. So it's
Yeah.
like both options suck. The one is he's so thick he doesn't understand. And you guys literally have done everything but tell him you must operate this way, and he's just not doing it. Or what's even worse is that he's like, well, I know my admin's not going to do anything to me, so it's all good. And then they're trying to talk to me like all soft, and I'm like, no, you're not addressing what I'm telling you. You're not you're skirting it again.
Mhm.
So I'm like, this isn't leadership. Well, it is, but it's not working. Anyway, so that guy now, I can't say too much because somebody might know who I'm talking about. That guy's now in high school, happier than a pig in shit. He's been there for years now, but like he's a high school teacher, and they hired him thinking that he would operate elementary, and he's like, I'm not operating like elementary. You guys are crazy with all the things you do and how you do them. Um, but anyway, there's I wanted to share that. Rochelle says it's harder to go down grade levels than up, in her opinion. It's harder to go down. So you're saying, Rochelle, like if a grade 8 teacher wanted to teach grade 4, it's harder than a grade 4 teacher moving up to grade 8, in your opinion? I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Mhm.
Having gone down this road, I wanted to, I don't know how much time you have, because usually we didn't even talk about the clock this morning. I wanted to talk about AI in education, but I wanted to twist it a little bit. Do we have any time?
Mhm. 9:30.
Gotcha. So we got
Yeah,
a
we
little
got
bit.
15.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we're good.
So yesterday I was listening to a space on X, which is funny to say, Twitter X, and it was
SpaceX.
space.
Funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Rochelle says yes. Gotcha,
Mm.
Rochelle. So that's why you're at the bottom of the totem pole, Rochelle. You are like in the hardest grade possible. So you're laughing if you move up. You're grade 1 or 2, right? Rochelle, did you see that the religion consultant position was posted? Rochelle, that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right.
Um, Yesterday, listening to a space on X Twitter about AI in medicine, man, it was friggin' awesome. It was awesome to just hear different people's perspective on. There are people who work in the medical field who are talking about how they could see AI sweep in and make things more efficient, um, and do a lot of the things that doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals do that waste time. Rochelle says 3-4. Oh, so you could never go to a 1, Rochelle. You would not survive in grade 1. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yes. Um, and again, I was taking what these people were saying about the medical field and trying to apply it to education, about the for me, the awesomeness of being able to teach your lesson to kids, but then have them all have access to some type of um, AI program or system as they're practicing their work, the formative stages of their learning and of the assessment process, and have them have immediate access to support while I'm in the room doing something else, and that the support is being provided to them based on what they're showing they understand, what they're showing they don't understand, and then how what happens in that little space in that time, how I can get feedback on that, what happened, and what the machine learning did to try to help the student. Like I think we could go so deep and so focused, and I believe that it would be so awesome, but I'm just dreaming because I've now been in this business long enough that I've seen that even in pandemic time, when we had to shift, there were a lot of good things. When we went back to normal, there are a lot of good things we could have brought with us from the shift that now have been ignored because, hey, we don't need that stuff anymore. Or we don't have the funding to keep this going. We just did that because it was an emergency. We're not in emergency times anymore. And I'm thinking, but it was a best practice. And we're just going to pretend like it didn't happen. Anyway, so I was listening to the healthcare professionals where some of this stuff is coming to life. Like some of the power of AI, people are building things to work in that area to make that area, I'm going to say, better, to give more time to the practitioners to actually listen to patients again instead of spending all their time doing other things instead of the actual like sitting down with the patient and trying to understand the relationship building. I feel like I'm jealous that it's happening there, and then we're over here in education and it's not happening here. And if it is, then it's niche and it's in a really, it's not hurt, like we're not hearing about it. Um, because we're in isolation. Is all about public education is all about isolation. Um, so I just wanted to throw that out there. I was kind of like I was feeling so good listening to these things and wondering how they could be applied to the work we do. But then I was dismayed, thinking, oh, we won't even follow good practice from pandemic times. So how are we gonna bring that into our work? That's all. That's what I wanted to say.
What I'm digging, I'm liking, I'm looking forward to the refreshment of being in secondary. I've always felt that elementary, as far as um, as far as my teacher colleagues that are really digging, disaggregating education, really working at the nuts and bolts of education and making it work. Yes, bureaucratic, yes, litigious. Like there's a lot more details to it, but I've always felt like the the focus, details, and commitment of elementary school teachers to actually make policy and like education policy work in the school because of the lens and the focus on them, the hyper focus of that start of education. Um, I've always felt that elementary school teachers, for the most part, were way better at the details than secondary school teachers. An elementary school teacher that has to be kind of like a polymath and their ability to sort of navigate different courses, um, varying sort of degrees of comfort and discomfort that seem to constantly flow within the elementary system. It's flexing on muscles that secondary school teachers just, I feel, aren't exposed to. So they're not building any of the eustress and the euphoria of actually successfully delivering according to the same timelines. And there is some real joy there because you feel your professional muscle growing. Now, of course, there are detail oriented individuals in secondary as well, as is I'm sure there's sort of like lazy asses in elementary. Like that's just the nature of work, right? But I'm looking forward to, because I've observed your career for the last decade and the places that you've kind of ruled into, you've demonstrated understanding, curiosity, a hunger to sort of get it down to the nuts and bolts and then rebuild it in a way that makes sense. I'm really looking forward to you to bring that experience. And I'll put a challenge of practice to you because this is a critical thing. I think about my experiences when I first came into education. I came in as a chef. So I came in with this business mindset and also a real sort of self-serving hunger, like to make money. I quickly realized that shit didn't work. I couldn't treat my students like my staff. So my compassion drive had to kick in. My sort of developmental understanding of kids had to kick in. A little bit of my sort of like ego had to take back seat, that they are not there just to sort of like bask in the glow of my experience. But in fact, I have to reverse that and get them glowing and experiencing things on their own. What I did notice though is that there was a certain lens that I use that really helped me kind of increase my bullshit factor. Like me calling it out and saying that just doesn't make sense. It was very much a moment like when, we're in these teacher conversations and someone stops and, oh my gosh, if anyone outside of education right now heard us talking, they would just be like, you assholes. Like that sort of like that rare moment where we realize that we're not everything in a bag of chips. We're actually making mistakes and spending time examining that and trying to move forward. Me coming out of culinary, out of running restaurants, it was a very pragmatic kind of pursuit. I was fortunate to have a team and individuals that we worked together fantastically and we built something together. But at the end of the day, I was still the person that said, you're fired. You've had X number of warnings, you're fired. You have an opportunity here to change, otherwise you're going to be fired. There was an end game to it. So that pragmatism was useful to me when I first started up because it allowed me to kind of only take in the things that were kind of useful. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like once I got over my ego of I'm no longer a chef, right? So I'm looking forward to like you coming into secondary now with this rich experience of elementary. And not only that, spaces, parallel spaces to elementary that few people even bothered to look at. Coming in and using that at secondary in a way that is useful to you, but also enriching to the experience. That we got back to enrichment, talking about enrichment on the on-ramp for another podcast. But basically, you walking in, and I hope, here's my hope. When so I've had experience like this as well. So me, alt ed. So being in these spaces that aren't a part of your typical kind of like fabric in education, alt ed, spec ed. Then I went and I did other place, another program with suspension exposure. Then I moved to another school, checked it. So I've had these things that when I arrive at a school and I hear people talking about some topic, literacy, I'm like, that's not how it is in the board. Don't talk like it's like in the board like that, because it is not. Hell, it's not even like that over in room 222 because I had an on-call in there and that ain't happening. Or I might even say when I was actually back here 7 years ago, and I got work for a kid that was on suspension. I'm now back at the school as a teacher and I'm seeing a handout that's the exact same handout. I'm like, how can that be? So don't say that because my experience says otherwise. We need to move forward. I'm looking forward to your aha moments where you're sitting there saying, okay, I get it. This is new. This is high school, but still that doesn't make sense. And here's why. And you're like, dot, 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 dot. And I'm vibing you positive vibes to sort of be the guy also that says, and I disagree with you. And here's why. So it's not just something that's occurring in your head. You actually throw it down on the table, because I will tell you time and time again, when I put that idea on the table, it stopped the conversation at least long enough for the bullshit to kind of go blah, 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 and go down the toilet. And you felt this kind of refreshment. Like, let's actually talk. Like, what conversation are we in here? Like, what conversation? Is it about literacy? Is it about numeracy? Is it about pedagogy? Is it about curriculum? Like, what are we actually talking about here? Because it's getting really complicated. And I don't think we're all talking about the same thing at the same time. So I'm looking forward to that for you, despite the wandering around and seeing if your key fob works. I'm thrilled just for these actual moments where you drop the armor and realize you're stronger because of it. Because the armor is sometimes those experiences that we assume everybody has had. And we're going to feel like we are all talking about the same thing, but we're not. And I'm just going to stop for a moment because what you said 3 minutes ago, I didn't step up and interrupt you, but now I'm going to interrupt the thinking, and I think you're wrong. And here's why. I'm looking forward to this. And I think you'll be the guy that does it. I think you'll be the guy that does it. Once you sort of figure out your OS there, and your OS, I realize it, you're doing you're Maslowing yourself. You're going to get that hierarchy so you feel comfortable, safe, fed, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But I think you're going to be tasting self-actualization pretty quickly. I can't see how it can't be, just because this moment that you're in, and if I'm going to credit you with my experience. I arrive, I start doing the work, and someone has said to me on many occasions, someone will say this to you as well. In the middle of sort of working through something, somehow it comes up. It's like they mention, oh yeah, I've just been in this challenge since I arrived here. How long have you been here? and you say, I just hear this year. They're like, what? Like, yeah, I just arrived this year. Like, what? I thought you've been here for like 4 or 5 years. The people you know, the things you know, the connections you've made, the discussions you've been in, the emails that you send out, all this kind of stuff that's like, this guy's not a first year teacher. So I am thrilled that you are going to be in that space. And I realize it won't be the same. It won't be the same, but I'm betting it'll be similar. And I'm betting you're going to be like, so Clough, now I see why you kind of mentioned that thing. Last thing I just want to mention, and it goes back to the bathroom thing. One of the interesting challenges of practice that I didn't get back to in discussion, but I think I will, redefining social spaces. And we have said time and time and time and time and time and time again, as educators, do not hang out in the bathrooms. There's something to examine there, though, about why kids go in there, not just this idea of, wanting to vape. Like, we have to accept that a bathroom in a school is now a social space. And once that cultural anointment has happened, it becomes infinitesimally more challenging to unwind that. And this is something that happens away from us. It's not anything that educators did. It's not anything that education did. It's just something that kind of spontaneous combustion. And now we have a space where kids are, even if like kids see bathrooms as social spaces, and to even say, why would you be in there to like stand in the bathrooms? It's disgusting. Kids are like, but that's where my friends are. So yeah, that's all it was, redefining social spaces. And now it's really far more challenging thinking about this, because I'm no longer, I mean, we made jokes about it, but I'm no longer surprised if I go into a bathroom and I see a kid sitting on the floor, like right beside the urinal. I mean, the splash factor alone would say, don't sit beside a urinal ever.
Yeah, I get that. And what you're saying about the social spaces, I'm not sitting here surprised. Like, oh my God, Chris, this is so new to me. It makes sense. It
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. It's just another space to hang. And if you see people sitting in there drinking their soup or whatever, wow, they're chilling. Um, so I'm looking forward to sharing my experiences with you. Couple of comments before we go.
Mm-hmm.
Rochelle did say she taught grade 1. She loved it. I liked it too, Rochelle, but moving up to 2 and 3 was the promotion because kids could read a little bit more and write a little bit more. And so it was like, oh my God, I've got grade 2s that can read. And it's all relative, but it's still that bump up. So that's what I'm thinking about when I read your stuff. And then Tyler Keefe joined us for a little bit. Tyler, welcome.
Hey,
Um,
Tyler.
so Tyler says, good morning, boys, rolling them off to get the meats. So every Saturday morning, Tyler wakes up early. And forgive me, Tyler, I don't remember the name of the store. Tyler goes to a certain store in his area. And on Saturdays, they've got all kinds of meats discounted. And Tyler usually gets like, I don't know, $100 worth of meat for
Mm-hmm.
like, 60, $70. Um, and I salivate every Saturday morning when I hear his message to me about the meats. This is what middle-aged men do.
When
I'm
you
up.
know, you know.
I'm
Yeah.
going to get the meats. um, anyway, so our time has come to an end. Anything you want to say before we go, Chris?
Nah, man, I'm good.
Awesome. So I'm wishing everybody a good week ahead. In Ontario, it's the week before school, so
Mm-hmm. For
elementary
some, for
for some,
some,
yes,
some
not
have the
for
early
everybody.
start as well. Yeah.
I would say for the majority.
Yep.
Um, elementary teachers will be in their rooms setting up, getting ready for their students. High school teachers, well, I know I'll be in and out of my high school,
I
just
am. I'm
figuring out
gonna.
what's going on.
Yeah, I'm aiming to be in 9 to 12 next week. I'm holding
Gotcha.
that firm, hard stop. I'm going to send out emails to the families, sort of
Mm,
like staged emails to kind of get them ready in their thinking.
right.
Tell them that they're kind of welcome to drop by, maybe on Thursday or Friday if they want to do a drop in just to say hello. So, yeah, I
I
got
love
that
it.
thinking. I got that thinking going too.
Cool. Okay. Well, this was Decoded Podcast Season 7, Episode 40, number 305. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll catch you later. Peace.
Take care, folks.